Good afternoon. We'll go ahead and get started. This brief webinar will provide updates on Year 2 reporting as well as common errors that occur in Energy Star when you run the data quality checker and how to fix those. Next slide. The webinar will be recorded and posted to the website as well as circulated to everybody. Lines will be muted, and if you could please email any questions to the Resource Center afterwards. I'm Dave Hodgins, run the LA Better Buildings Challenge. I'll be presenting briefly the introductory portion of the webinar and then handing it over to Renee Daigneault, who runs the Resource Center on behalf of the Better Buildings Challenge, to go into the data quality checker issues, how to fix those, and Year 2 reporting requirements. The LA Energy and Water Efficiency Resource Center, which is powered by the LA Better Buildings Challenge, provides comprehensive resources to all the buildings covered by the EBEWE ordinance, as we all affectionately know it, and that's the website, betterbuildingsla.com. Just going to go very quickly. I think everybody's familiar with the annual requirements, but just hitting on the bold points. That's whole building, electricity, gas, and water for the prior calendar year. This is an annual requirement, and that submittal happens through Energy Star Portfolio Manager. We'll talk about master metered versus direct build, sub-metered type of properties later. All buildings are reporting whole building data, and that is through a benchmarking report that's submitted to LADBS, and that's each year by June 1st. So each and every year, a new benchmarking report to LADBS. Assembly Bill 802 recently went into effect. Same due date, June 1st. That is intentional. If you are covered by the LA ordinance, you do not need to comply with AB 802. So that's the end of story on that. Buildings that are not in a city that's covered by the ordinance can find more information. But if you're covered by the LA Existing Buildings and Water Efficiency Ordinance, you do not need to comply with AB 802. We're going to just put this up for reference. Today, again, we're focused on benchmarking, which is this annual, complete once a year top portion of this diagram. We will be providing additional updates on the next phase of the ordinance, the performance phase, on a future update. The Resource Center has developed a range of resources to bring this process together. We've got 4 different pieces, LADWP, SoCalGas, LADBS, and Energy Star. So the benchmarking guide brings that entire process together into one document. We've got clear screenshots. Hopefully everybody's familiar with that. And for buildings that are reporting for the first time, those 50,000 square feet and up, they're reporting for the first time, or if one of your buildings wasn't able to get it done last year, and this is the first year you're reporting for a larger building, 100,000 square feet and up. The guide is comprehensive and shows the entire process. So I'm not going to go into the details other than to outline basically what's in it, but there's step-by-step screenshots and notes on every detail of the process. So please do check that out if this is your first year reporting. We've also created a Year 2 primer, and this is, as the name implies, a primer. You'll still be referencing sections of the guide, but for Year 2, so this is buildings that reported 2016 data last year, 100,000 square feet and up, the process is slightly different. So all the steps are there in the guide, but there's a couple of different boxes to click, and again, this is an annual requirement. Some people assumed that it was automated after the first year, and it's not, unfortunately. So this is the document to look at if this is Year 2 for your property, and this is your Cliff's Notes version, pointing you to the sections that you need to address to get the report in on time for this next deadline, which again is June 1. So the sections of the guide, again, bringing together the whole process, building and safety, portfolio manager, DWP, SoCalGas, and submitting all of that. These hyperlinks go to the different sections of the guide, and Again, that's available for download on our website at the address at the bottom of the screen. A quick note on master metered buildings versus buildings that are sub-metered or where tenants are directly billed. If you are a master metered building, meaning tenants are not directly billed for utilities, you bill them back in some method, it's going to be faster, easier, and less painful for you to upload that data yourself, because you have all of the data you need, the whole building, electricity, gas, and water, either through your bills or some other system that you're using to track your utility expenses and consumption. It's faster for you to upload it yourself, not to request it from the utilities. So, so a list of common master metered property types there, and the steps on how to upload that information are there in the guide, and trust me, it'll save you a lot of time to do it that way. And here's just a screenshot, an example of the contents of the guide. All the steps are in there for how you manually upload, and it's a quick process. Direct metered properties, meaning there's more than one meter for electricity, gas, and or water. Tenants are billed directly. This is commonly seen in multifamily and retail or certain other type of multi-tenant properties where tenants have their own systems and their own meters in place and are directly billed. In that case, it's the landlord, the owner, who's responsible for complying with the ordinance. And in this case, you'll need to request the aggregated data from the utilities. And again, there's detailed screenshots in the guide, but this is only necessary if you don't have the data already. So again, you want to go directly to uploading the data if you have it, that whole building data. If you don't have it, you have to request the aggregated data. And you see, obviously, we're past March 1st at this point. If you haven't already submitted your request, please do so ASAP. And there's information in the guide on where you go to do that. Another example of the content that's in the guide. So all the detail you need is there. Another example of the process. So getting to the meat of today's update, the data quality checker. This is required under the ordinance that buildings prior to submitting run the data quality checker. It will flag some common errors. Those are to be fixed prior to submitting the final report to DBS. And starting next year, the city is actually going to be able to see if those errors were fixed. EPA just added some new functionality that enables cities to see that. So it is important to fix these things. I'd like to hand it over to my colleague Renee to walk through some of these common issues and how to fix them.
Okay, great. Thank you, Dave. So I'll be walking you through some of the common error messages that are generated by the data quality checker. And then we'll also be reviewing how to correct these issues in Portfolio Manager. So the list on this slide here shows some of the most common errors that customers will encounter, and we'll be covering those over the next few slides. So the first error that we'll talk through is gaps in meter data. So if you receive this error, you'd want to click on the meter for which the error was generated, and then add the missing meter entry in order to resolve the gap. So this error is generally caused by a mistake in data entry. If you're manually entering the information, putting it into a spreadsheet, it's usually just an error in one of the dates. So that's the way you'll be able to correct that if you manually uploaded the data. And if you requested your data from DWP or SoCalGas, if you're one of those buildings where the tenants are billed directly for their usage, then you'll have to follow up with the utilities in order to address the issue. We'll show the best way to contact the utilities a few slides later. So the next issue that I'll talk through here is when the meter does not have 12 full months of data. So to correct this issue, you can click on the meter for which the error was generated and then add the remaining data by identifying the calendar month related to the error. So again, if your data was uploaded by the utilities, you can contact them in order to resolve. And this issue is also generally, if you're uploading your own data, this is generally related to a data entry issue. So this error here, a single entry that is greater than 65 days. So to address this one, you click on the meter name in order to view the entries and drill down into where the error is located. And then you'd adjust the meter date or add an entry. 65 days is more than 2 months. So, there are times where the data may be for a 2-month period, and that won't generate this data, this error. But if you do have more than 65 days in one entry, you'll get this issue. And the background behind this one is Portfolio Manager uses information on your climate zone and weather in order to calculate metrics. So they need monthly data in order to best do that. So by correcting this error, you'll also be able to get better metrics for your property. So, and if your data was uploaded by the utilities, you would contact them directly in order to resolve. So this next error is generated when the proper meters or meters were not selected to include in the metrics. So if you see this meter, below the error message, you would click on the tell us which meters to include in your metrics. After clicking on that, then you would check the boxes next to the meters that should be included in order to account for whole building data for the reporting year. So next you click to note that these meters account for the total consumption for the year. This one, I wanted to point out that if you reported for a prior year and you requested data from DWP, you will have 2 virtual meters. So you'd only include the DWP virtual meter for the year on which you're reporting. So for this reporting cycle, you'd only include 2017. And the year 2 primer provides a lot more detail on exactly how to make sure you report that information correctly. So the next error here is the meter start date. So if you receive this error, you would click on the meter name in order to update the start date to match the earliest day you have meter data entered. So you can't have a meter that is that didn't start as early as your data started. So if your data, the first data you've entered, for example, is January 1st, 2017, you'd want to make sure that your meter start date matched and was also January 1st, 2017. We saved the easiest one for last. So if you get the no waste or materials meters error, which nearly all customers will get this error, you don't need to take any action. Waste or materials meters are not required by our local ordinance. If you enter them, that's optional. So you don't need to enter that information, and you can still proceed with submitting your report even though you'll have this error message present. So next, I wanted to provide an update on some of the data that has been published by the Department of Building and Safety. The ordinance includes a disclosure and transparency component, and so we have data has been made available by the Department of Building and Safety based on the 2017 reporting information. So you can find this information on DBS's building information online system. You can find compliance status as well as metrics by building address. And you can also navigate through the map and click on different buildings to get that information. Information has also been published through the mayor's open data platform. There's a catalog of data on all sorts of elements throughout the city. There's really an incredible data set that's publicly available. And so the ordinance data can be viewed here. You can also download this data into an Excel file. So if you want to take a look at it, it's pretty easy just to download, and then you can play with the data if you're so inclined. So as I mentioned earlier, if you need to follow up with the utilities, this is where you can find the best way to contact them. We really encourage all customers that are subject to the ordinance to take a look at this and make sure before you reach out with a question that you are contacting the best party so that you can get the most efficient response. We worked closely with our partners to put this together, and we know there's a lot of entities involved with the ordinance, so this is intended to make it easier for customers to contact the best party based on their question. And contact us for questions on benchmarking and planning for the performance phase. However, if you have kind of a general question on the process, or we can always help you clarify exactly who to contact if you have questions after reviewing this information here. So in summary, the upcoming date, June 1st of 2018, is the compliance due date for buildings that are 50,000 square feet or greater. This includes buildings that are 100,000 square feet or greater and benchmarked and reported their 2016 data last year. So this is an ongoing annual requirement. If you're already benchmarking whole building data in Energy Star, you do not need to request that data from the utilities. If your tenants are billed directly and you do need to request the data, please be sure to submit your complete data request as soon as possible, since we're past that March 1st deadline, but you still get it in as soon as possible. And then the performance phase that Dave had mentioned earlier, that's going to start in 2019. So it's a good time to begin your planning by determining the deadline and the compliance options. We have more resources on our website, and we can also provide more information on that. If you feel free to reach out and contact us with any questions. And then if you are undergoing energy and water efficiency projects at your property, be sure to keep records. That'll be really helpful for you as the performance phase begins, and those deadlines again begin in 2019. So that wraps up our presentation for today. Thank you all for attending. We'll be posting these slides on the Better Buildings LA website under the Resources tab. And if you have any questions about the content that we've covered today, or questions as you go through the compliance process, please feel free to reach out with us, as well as sign up for updates on our newsletter. That's we promptly provide information through our newsletter as new updates become available, and you can contact us and sign up at betterbuildingsla.com. Thank you all very much.